This video was made possible by Gamersgate.com. Download games anytime, anywhere. Skip it up and that up. So there's been a crap load of articles going around the web, and they're making it like this news is shocking about the PlayStation 3. And everyone's like, oh my god, it was supposed to be launched in 2005, not 2006. Imagine what that would have done for Microsoft. And my response to that part of these articles is no shit. That's like a known fact that they were supposed to launch it in 2005. I even think that Sony said in E3 way back in the day they were going to launch in 2005, and then they had to delay it. But the reason why they delayed it is the interesting part. See, the PlayStation 3 was originally not supposed to have a GPU, a graphics processor. The SPUs in the cell were going to handle all the graphics calculations. Until ICE, the Initiative for a Common Engine, those are all the different first-party Sony companies who came together to work on an engine for the first-party games, said to the engineers over at Sony and the suits over at Sony, you're on crack. If you don't put a GPU in this thing, you're out of your mind. It's going to be a nightmare to program for. And we all know the PlayStation 3 was already a nightmare to program for. What to me is interesting about this is not only it would have been interesting to see a GPU-less PlayStation 3 and how games would have looked on it. That would have been cool to see. It probably would have been disastrous business decision for Sony, but it would have been interesting to see a game console run without a graphics processor, is that it shows how different the approach with the PlayStation 4 is as opposed to the PlayStation 3. Ken Kutaragi, his whole mindset was, let's make the hardware, the architecture as foreign as possible. You know, it makes it tougher for developers to develop games. And what Sony's approach was, and they even admitted this in articles, the upper brass, the suits at Sony, if we make the system tough to program for, and we're the market leader, third-party and first-party developers, or third-party, actually, I should say, first-party is always going to only develop for Sony, is that the third-party developers, it'll be tougher for them to work on different platforms because the PlayStation 3 would have been so tough to make games for, they wouldn't have been able to allocate resources towards Sony's competition. Unfortunately, what happened, especially, well, at least in the beginning, I should say, the PlayStation 3 wasn't the market leader, and because it would actually worked against them, third-party developers either made half-ass ports or didn't make games for the PlayStation 3 because they were like, screw you, the Xbox 360 has a bigger market share. The Wii, I guess you could say, was easier to program for. We're going to focus on those two platforms, and in the beginning, not now, but in the beginning, screw the PlayStation 3. Fast forward to 2013, and Mark Cerny, when he took over the helm, I should say, of making the PlayStation 4, he's like, hell no, we're going to do the exact opposite of that. We're going to make a platform that's easy to program for, easy to develop for, so we can stay competitive. Sony learned a lot from the PlayStation 3, man, and that's why this article was so interesting to me. It isn't because of, the release date. Like I said, I already knew that of the PlayStation 3. I knew it was a year late. Is that how different the approach is. How much Sony was humbled, basically, by the disastrous launch of the PlayStation 3. In the end, the PlayStation 3 did well. But they learned a lot. They learned what they need to do to stay competitive. And here we are with the PlayStation 4. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few years. But Sony has come a long way, and their ego has definitely shrunk big time. Because imagine if Ken Kutaragi was still there making systems. Maybe his mindset would have changed, but the PlayStation 4 also could have possibly been a disaster. Anyway, folks, make sure to rate, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for supporting Review Tech USA. Have a good one.